अनन्तरूप अनन्तनाम आदिमूला नारायण अनन्तरूप अनन्तनाम आदिमूला नारायण अनन्तशयना हे जगन्नाथ कमलनयना हे माधव अनन्तशयना हे जगन्नाथ कमलनयना हे माधव करुणासागर कालिङ्गनर्तन करुणासागर कालिङ्गनर्तन हे कृपा सिन्धो कृष्ण हे कृपा सिन्धो अनन्तरूप अनन्तनाम आदिमूला नारायण विश्वरूपा विश्वाधारा विश्वव्यापक नारायण विश्वरूपा विश्वाधारा विश्वव्यापक नारायण विश्वतैजस प्राज्ञस्वरूप हे दया सिन्धो कृष्ण हे दया सिन्धो अनन्तरूप अनन्तनाम आदिमूला नारायण अनन्तशयना हे जगन्नाथ कमलनयना हे माधव करुणासागर कालिङ्गनर्तन हे कृपा सिन्धो कृष्ण हे कृपा सिन्धो अनन्तरूप अनन्तनाम आदिमूला नारायण अनन्तरूप अनन्तनाम आदिमूला नारायण
सहना भवतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ नमो भगवते वैवस्वताय मृत्यवे ब्रह्मविद्याचार्याय नचिकेतसे च Humble prostrations to one and all. So in the last class we had seen Vajasravas desiring heaven, desiring Swarga. He decided to do a yaga called Vishwajit Yaga. And the condition for doing that yaga was that one has to give up everything, all his wealth. So therefore, what did Vajasravas do? So in the last class we had seen, he did not want to part away with his wealth. At the same time, he had the desire for heaven also. But now what did he do? He wrote a will in the name of his son Nachiketa. So in that will, what all good things were there? All healthy cows, good cows, and all the other things. All good things he wrote in the name of his son. And all useless, good for nothing things he wrote in his own name. So that when everything has to be given, he need to give only whatever wealth he has with him. So this way, he tried to play smart, and thus this particular yaga was conducted, Vishwajit yaga was conducted, and all the useless cows were given to the priests, to the purohits who have conducted the yaga. So as he was giving these cows, Pitodakaha, Jagdhatranaha, Dugdhadoha, Nirindriyaha, this is the kind of description about the cows. All useless cows, very old, dilapidated, cannot be milked, cannot reproduce, such cows were given. So when these cows were given as dakshina, Nachiketa was watching this. He was just a Kumara, a little boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old. When he saw this, that father was giving all these useless cows as dakshina, he remembered the scriptures. This boy was filled with faith. So he remembered the scriptural statements that the person who gives such kind of dakshinas, Ananda namate lokaha tansagacchati tadadat. Such a person who gives such dakshinas, they will only go to Ananda loka, the joyless worlds. So we were seeing this point in the last class. So as far as legality of this action is concerned, everything was perfect. The yaga was done and Vajasravas was giving only his wealth and he was giving everything away. Legally he was right, technically he was right, but this boy Nachiketa felt that this is not a punya karma, it is a papa karma. And therefore the result of any papa karma is hell, naraka. And what do you get in naraka? Only joylessness. My father is doing everything to go to Swarga, but his actions are such that he will end up going to Naraka. Why does he think so? He thinks so because in that particular yaga, in that action, in that karma of Vajasravas, there was selfishness. He was keeping all good things with him, he was giving away only useless things. So there was selfishness there. There was exploitation there because these priests, purohits, they are not supposed to ask something. Whatever is given to them, they have to unquestioningly accept. So they were helpless. So Vajasravas was making use of this helplessness of the purohit. So there was exploitation there. Also there was insensitivity because these cows, you will have to look after them. And in return, they will not be able to give anything. So these cows are nothing but burden for them. So you don't have the sensitivity to know the pain and sufferings of others. So this action was definitely insensitive. Giving pain to others but not knowing that the others are in pain. So this is insensitivity. So there was this lack of moral purity behind this noble action. This Nachiketa understood. So therefore he concludes that this action is not a punya karma, it is only papa karma. So now Vajasravas was none other than his own father. So it is the responsibility of the son to protect his father, to save his father from going into such joyless worlds. So this was one side. On the other side, being a mere boy of 7 or 8, and being the son of Vajasravas, he has no right to correct his father, advise his father. If it was somebody else who is younger, junior, of course you have the right to correct that person, guide that person, instruct that person, advise that person, you can do all that. But when you are dealing with somebody who is more advanced in age, especially one's own father, the elders, you have to follow so many etiquettes of life. There are so many manners prescribed. There is a way of behavior. You cannot say that just because I am telling the truth, I can tell it in any way to anyone. That is not the socially accepted way. There is a way. So whenever we are in the assembly of the noble ones, the cultured ones, the elderly ones, there is a way to behave. Just because you are telling the truth, it doesn't mean that you can just speak it the way you want. That is not the way. There are so many other aspects to be taken into account. No doubt you must speak the truth, but then this truth has to be spoken in a very sweet way, in an acceptable way. And the body language also must reflect one's humility, one's respect and reverence for these elderly people. There must be obedience, there must be surrender. So all these noble virtues must be reflected along with saying this truth. This is how we have to handle the elders in the society. There is a cultured way of behaving. Very many times we do this mistake. We say that anyway I am telling the truth, so I am not scared of anything, so I will tell the truth without bothering about anything else. There are very many people who do this mistake. And in the end, what happens? They are disliked by everyone in the society. They become inimical to very many people in the society. So when they see that they are disliked by others, then they come with this self-pity statement saying that, see, in this society the truth has no value. I spoke only the truth, but see now what has happened to me. Nobody likes me. This is what they say. These statements of self-pity. I stood for the truth, but nobody likes me because I spoke the truth. Now the fact is not that he spoke the truth, therefore others don't like him. That is not the fact. The fact is he has not presented the truth in the way it has to be presented. This aspects very many times we ignore, and therefore people in the society dislike us. So we have to be very careful as to how to present our case, especially in the presence of elders and the noble ones in the society. So therefore the same problem was faced by Nachiketa here. The elders were handling all these transactions. So he, merely being a boy, he has no role to play there. He has no right to interfere and disturb them. He has no right to advise them, correct them. Then what should he do? But at the same time that urgency was there that my father must be saved from this dangerous situation. So urgency was there. So what should he do? So he did something wonderful. So that we will see in the next verse, verse number 4, page number 7. स होवाच पितरं तात कस्मै मां दास्यसीति द्वितीयं तृतीयं तं होवाच मृत्यवे त्वा ददामीति स होवाच पितरं तात कस्मै मां दास्यसीति द्वितीयं तृतीयं तं होवाच मृत्यवे त्वा ददामीति. Yes. So what did he do? He went to his father. Saha Pitaram Uvacha. He went to his father and said, he told his father. What did he say? O Tata, O dear father, Kasmai mam dasyasi iti. To whom are you going to give me? Whom will you give me? Kasmai mam dasyasi. Whom will you give me? Whom are you going to give me? So he went to his father and with all humility, with all respect, he spoke these words to his father. Now the question may come, why did he speak like this? Now we have to understand. Vajasravas was actually doing a papa karma because all good things he had kept with himself. He has written in the name of Nachiketa. This was a papa karma because he was not giving everything away. The good things he has kept with himself. So this papa karma can be converted into punya karma. What is the condition? The condition is he must give everything away. So Nachiketa thought, if my father has to give everything away, if he gives everything away, then this karma will be converted into punya karma. And with this punya karma, he will go to Swarga. His welfare and well-being will be taken care. So the necessary condition is, he must be made to sacrifice everything. Now, interestingly, every good thing is written in the name of Nachiketa. So therefore, if he is made to renounce me, if he can give me away, then it is equivalent to he has given everything, because everything is in my name. So if he can give away his son, then he will be giving away everything, and when he gives away everything, then this karma will become punya karma. He will get the desired result, which is Swarga. So this was the thinking of Nachiketa. So what he has to do? There is only one way: self-sacrifice. Atma pradhanena api. This is what Bhagavan Shankaracharya writes. Bhagavan says, even by sacrificing myself, doesn't matter if I have to sacrifice myself in order to save my father, I am ready to do it. With this intention, he goes to his father. And then he tells his father, "Oh father, whom are you going to give me away?" Now this is called selfless love. This is called true love. This is called unconditional love. This love which Nachiketa had towards his father. What is the nature of selfless love? In selfless love, you are not bothered about yourself, your own welfare and well-being. No. In selfless love, you are bothered about the welfare and well-being of the other person. So the attitude in selfless love is, I don't care even if I suffer, but my beloved, the person whom I love, he must be safe and secure and happy. In the process, even if I suffer, it's okay for me. This is the nature of selfless love. And this is what Nachiketa does here. Oh Father, whom are you going to give me? I am also your dhana. I am putra dhana. Putra is also a dhana. Son is also a wealth. So since I am also your wealth, so therefore you must give me away. You must give me also away. For that my permission is needed. I give permission to you. You have all the right upon me. I am your obedient son. You have all the right upon me. So therefore you can give me away even without my asking. You have all the right. So Father, whom are you going to give me away? So here the intention is, my Father's welfare and well-being is the most important thing. In the process, I will have to do this self-sacrifice. It is acceptable for me. In the process, I will be separated from my beloved Father. There will be a pang of separation. There will be a pain of separation because I will be away from my Father. Once He gives me away to somebody, that pain is acceptable because it will only lead to good of my Father. In the process, I will have to become a slave in somebody's house. It is acceptable. I will have to become a servant in somebody's house. It is acceptable. I will have to be separated from my Father. It is acceptable. Now see this attitude of this child. My Father's welfare and well-being is the most important. For that, I am ready to go through any sacrifice. Even death is acceptable for me. Now this is the attitude of this child. This love is called selfless love, true love. It is also unconditional love. You see this, there is no condition. My Father is doing a papa karma. He has so many defects and imperfections, etc. In spite of that, I love him. Now see this is called unconditional. Whatever my Father is, he may have so many defects, imperfections, doesn't matter, I still keep loving him. I will still be his obedient, loving son. Now this is called unconditional love. Such a love is called bhakti. So what we see here is Pitra Bhakti, ideal Pitra Bhakti, devotion unto one's own father. Readiness to sacrifice everything for one's own father. A similar instance we find in Mahabharata also. Bhishma also does the same thing. In fact, his name was Devavrata. So Devavrata, for the sake of his father Shantanu, he does the same thing. Shantanu was interested in Satyavati. Satyavati's father keeps certain condition. So therefore Devavrata takes certain vows. What are the vows? I will remain celibate throughout my life. I will not get married. I will never become the king. But whoever becomes the king, I will loyally serve him. These were the vows taken by Bhishma. And because of these terrible vows, his name became Bhishma. His name was Devavrata, but he was called Bhishma. And the moment he took this vow, it is said that all the celestials started showering flowers upon him because he has taken such a difficult, very difficult vow. And he remained firm to the vow which he had taken. So almost a similar instance we find here also. For the sake of one's own father, Nachiketa is ready to sacrifice everything. So here we find a perfect selfless love of son towards his father. Now compare it with selfish love. What is selfish love? It is love because of. Selfless love is love in spite of. In spite of all imperfection, I love you. This is unconditional love. What about selfish love? It is conditional. There is a condition. I love you because you are beautiful. I love you because you are rich. I love you because you are intelligent, famous, etc., etc. There is a condition, so there is love. And once that condition is gone, there is no love. This is called imperfect, selfish, conditional love. This love is not called bhakti, it is called asakti, attachment. It makes a person fall low. Bhakti takes a person higher. It makes a person evolve spiritually. It takes a person Godward. Whereas asakti makes a person blind. That's why we use this term, falling in love. Not rising in love, but falling in love. Isn't it? So that boy fell in love with that girl. Now see the usage, falling. Why falling? Because the moment that love, that attachment comes, you become blind. Your intellect stops functioning. You become attached to that girl, and then what happens? You forget your responsibilities to your parents. Those parents who have done so much of sacrifice in bringing you up. In a moment's notice, you forget, you leave those parents, and this girl who had just come few days back, then you leave the house along with her. Now what is this? It is nothing but blinding passion. It is not a love something which we can praise. It is only causing that person's downfall. This has to be understood. So on one side it is bhakti, on the other side it is asakti. In selfish love, you will always find it is possessiveness. That person is not interested in the welfare of the other person. That person is interested only in his own happiness, his own welfare. This is called selfish love. I don't care about you, I care only about me. I care only about my pleasure, my happiness. This is another nature of selfish love. There is no sacrifice involved. So here we find Nachiketa's love a supreme love. So what does he do then? He goes to his father and says, Father, I am also your wealth. So therefore, whom are you going to give me? So what was in the mind of Nachiketa? In the mind there was only one thing, the welfare and well-being of his own father. So with this good intention he had gone there. Then what happened? Dvitiyam tritiyam tam hovacha. So Nachiketa went to his father, said, Father, kasmai mam dasyasi, whom are you going to give? Father did not reply. Father was busy giving these cows, etc. So first time he did not reply. Dvitiyam, second time again Nachiketa went. Nachiketa asked the same question. Father, whom are you going to give me? There was no reply. Father ignored him. But then this boy was also adamant. He again asked, Father, tritiyam tam hovacha. Again, third time, tritiyam. Father, whom are you going to give me? So he was persistent. Now we have to understand the cause of this persistence. It may appear that this boy was impatient. It was not because he was impatient. It was not a childish prank. He was not playing some joke on his father. No. He was not trying to just get attention from everyone. No. This insistence had only one cause, and that cause is the welfare and well-being of his father. So there was love, there was concern for his welfare. Because it was an urgent need, so therefore he was as though pestering his father. So then what happened? Dvitiyam Tritiyam Tam Hovacha. The father became very disturbed, annoyed, he became angry, and then he said, Mrityave tva dadami iti. I give you to death. Father was so annoyed with this boy. Again and again he was pestering with the same question. He was not leaving him. So therefore, father, out of anger, for that moment he was annoyed, and with that he just shouted at him, Mrityave tva, I give you to death. I give you to death means what? Go and die. Something like that. In Hindi also we use this. Ja, marja, go and die. Now here we have to understand, it was only because of that momentary agitation that father told this. Otherwise that father was very much loving his son. The very fact that he has written all good things in the name of Nachiketa, that itself shows that father was loving his son very much. But in that moment, just to get rid of that boy, and it is but natural, a boy of 7 or 8 years old, you will never take that boy seriously, especially when you are doing something serious. When a boy comes and disturbs you, naturally you will think that this boy is just prattling, he is just playing a joke. It is a childish prattle, childish prank. So just to get rid of this boy, father had spoken those words. But what was the impact on Nachiketa? The impact was tremendous. The son took those words very seriously. Nachiketa did not feel that, my father, he just got disturbed and therefore he just shouted at me. No. Nachiketa took even those words uttered in those careless moments, those words were taken seriously. What did he do? So what is done here, it is not mentioned. The next verse is about contemplation of Nachiketa. So now all those gaps we will have to fill. So Nachiketa, when he was shouted by his father, he silently withdrew. He did not shout back or cry or anything, he just silently withdrew. Went to a corner, sat in solitude, and then started introspection. Was Nachiketa disturbed? Of course Nachiketa was disturbed, because it is natural. Someone whom we love, whom we respect, who is elderly, especially a person like father, when our father shouts at it, it is but natural that we will get disturbed. It is natural. Nachiketa also must have got disturbed. But what is the result of this disturbance? He just withdrew himself and then went to some silent corner and started introspection. Now this is something which we have to learn. Whenever the mind is disturbed, don't interact with the world. Why? Because a disturbed mind can only bring out disturbed speech. It can only disturb everyone. When the mind is disturbed, the intellect will not work properly. When the mind is in rajas or tamas, it never works properly. Mind works perfectly well only when it is sattvic. So if we find that our mind is disturbed, it is always good to withdraw, not to interact with the public, withdraw and quieten the mind. This is something which we have to learn from Nachiketa. A disturbed mind will force us to blurt out something stupid, something wrong, something unjust, something harsh. It will force us, and maybe it will force us into some wrong actions also, for which we may have to repent in the future. So therefore, it's always advised that whenever the mind is disturbed, silently withdraw and then quieten the mind through prayer, meditation, etc. This is what this boy does. So Nachiketa, what did he do? He just withdrew. And now what was the cause of his disturbance? Now this is a very interesting thing. There can be different cause for one's own disturbed mind. Disturbance can be because of our noble way of thinking. Disturbance can be because of our ignoble way of thinking. Two different ways are there. First, let us discuss the ignoble way. So it is possible that when somebody shouts at us, like what happened here. So what is the general tendency of human mind? The general tendency is to say, see, I went to do something good for my father, but see what he has done. He has shouted at me in front of everyone. See, this is one line of thinking. In fact, majority of us will think in this way only. And he shouted at me, therefore I am disturbed. My ego is hurt, therefore I am disturbed. I went to do something good for him, but in turn he shouted at me, therefore I am disturbed. Means what? He is at fault. My father is at fault. I am perfectly alright. What I did was right. Now this is the general line of thinking. But what was Nachiketa's line of thinking? It was very different. Why was Nachiketa disturbed? Nachiketa was not disturbed because he was shouted at. No. Nachiketa was disturbed when he realized that because of his action, father got disturbed. Father became angry. So I became the cause for agitation of my father. I gave pain to my father. I disturbed my father. I shouldn't have done that. Now see, now this is a noble way of thinking. Here who is at fault? So according to Nachiketa, I am at fault. I must have done something wrong because of which father became angry. He became annoyed. So therefore the mistake is mine. Now he has withdrawn into this silent corner. Now the question which he is asking himself is, what is the mistake which I have done? Now this is introspection. What is the mistake which I have done so that I can correct myself in the future? This is the way his thinking goes. So let us see how his contemplation, in which direction he contemplates. So this comes as the fifth verse. Fifth verse, page number 10. Bahunamemi prathamah, bahunamemi madhyamah, kim svityamasya kartavyam, yanmayadya karishyati. Bahunamemi prathamah, bahunamemi madhyamah, kim svityamasya kartavyam, yanmayadya karishyati. So now he is introspecting. What is the mistake which I have done? Did I do something wrong? Did I make a mistake? So now he is self-analyzing. So what is he saying? Bahunam aham prathamah emi. Among many, I come as first. Prathama, first. Among many, I stand as first, as the best. Prathama means uttama. Bahunam aham madhyamah emi. And among many, I come as medium. Madhyama, middle order. So among many, I come as first. And among many, I come in the middle order. So what is he trying to say? So he is trying to say that I am either in the Uttama or in Madhyama, but I am never an Adhama Shishya. the inferior category. No, either the best or in the middle, but never the inferior. Now here one more thing we have to understand. Vajasravas was not only the father of Nachiketa, he was also the guru of Nachiketa. So Nachiketa is a son disciple of Vajasravas. So what we understand is maybe Vajasravas had lot of disciples. There were so many other children who used to learn from Vajasravas. This is what we understand because of the usage of the term Bahunam, among many. So among many of the Shishyas, I stand as the best. At the worst, I am in the middle order, but I am never Adhama, the inferior category. Now what is the definition of Uttama, Madhyama and Adhama? What is the definition? So commentators have written, Uttama Shishya, the best Shishya is the one who, knowing what the Guru needs, he does it even before the Guru instructs. This is the best category. Guru need not instruct. The best disciple, they know what Guru wants, and accordingly that Shishya serves the Guru. Such a Shishya is the best one, Uttama Prathama, best. Even without instruction, he serves Guru to his satisfaction. This is the best. What is the second one? The second category is the Shishya is not able to understand what Guru wants, but the moment Guru asks him to do something, commands him to do, immediately he does it. This is the middle category. So he has to be instructed, but once instructed, he immediately obeys and does everything to the satisfaction of Guru. Now this is Madhyama. And what is the inferior category? Inferior is the one, even when the Guru tells, that Shishya is not bothered, he doesn't obey. So there is disobedience, there is disrespect, there is lack of humility. So all those things, these vices are present in the inferior. Now what is Nachiketa saying here? Nachiketa is saying, most of the time I am Prathama only. Some rare few times, yes, I come down to Madhyama, but I am never an Adhama Shishya. So what is he trying to say? So now this is self-introspection. What kind of person I am? So he finds that I have always obeyed my teacher, my father. I have always given respect to him, reverence to him. I have always been humble in front of him. I have always obeyed him. I have always obeyed him. Never was a time when I have behaved in a disrespectful manner. I have never been arrogant in his presence. I have been a good child. I have been a good disciple. So therefore, now see the conclusion. Therefore, the conclusion is, nothing inauspicious can come to me. Again coming back to karma theory. So what is his conclusion? His conclusion is, nothing inauspicious can come to me because my actions were all good and noble. But then my father has cursed me to death. Don't worry. Even that death can only bring auspiciousness. Now, this is the way the boy is thinking. I have been given to death. That means I will have to die. Death is for sure. Now, this death also can only bring auspiciousness to me. See this way. Death can be of two types. It can be inauspicious, it can be auspicious. What do you mean inauspicious death? So for example, suppose there is a criminal, has done so many crimes, and finally the Supreme Court gives capital punishment. Now that death is inauspicious. It has come because of all my papa karmas, bad karmas. That death is inauspicious. But suppose there is somebody who is, while fulfilling the duty, while fulfilling his responsibility, he dies. Then that death is not inauspicious, that death is viragati, it is auspicious. For example, like the soldiers who die in the battlefield while protecting their nation. We use the term Swargiya or Viragati. Viragati is the term used. That death can bring only auspiciousness. So in the same way, Nachiketa is analyzing. Now this death has come. Is this death auspicious or inauspicious? It has to be auspicious because all my actions have been auspicious, have been good. In fact, I went to my father only for his welfare and well-being. So the intention was good. Action also was done for his welfare. But in return, if I have got death, that death can only bless me. This is the way he thinks. Good actions can give only good results. It can never bring bad results. Impossible. Punya karma has to bring punya karma phala, meaning sukha. Now see this analysis and see his firm abidance in karma theory. Earlier we have seen, when he saw his father doing this kind of yaga, so what was his analysis? This kind of papa karma can give only papa karma phala, that is naraka, as a result. Again you find that he is applying karma theory there. Father's karma is papa karma, so definitely he will not go to Swarga, he will go only to Naraka. So there, that was again. Now here he is applying the same theory upon himself. He says, I have always been good, all my actions have been noble, so nothing inauspicious, nothing bad can come to me. See the way of thinking. So firmly he was rooted in this law, the law of karma. I have always been good, all my actions have been noble, so therefore only good can befall upon me. Only good can happen to me, even if it is death. This is the point. How clear his understanding is. A similar incident we see in Buddha's case also. So when Buddha was going for bhiksha along with so many disciples, so I think the king was against him. I think his name was Ajatashatru or something. So he releases one mad wild elephant, some Nalagiri or something was his name. So this elephant was released. The purpose was to trample Buddha. So this wild elephant was released, and then elephant ran towards Buddha. At that time, all the disciples, they started running away, seeing this wild elephant charging towards them. So one disciple asked Buddha, Sir, we must escape from here, we must run away from here, otherwise this elephant will trample us, kill us. At that time, Buddha makes a statement. He says, the one who harms none will be harmed by none. Buddha at that time was an embodiment of compassion, embodiment of love. So this statement Buddha makes, I have never harmed anyone, so therefore nobody can harm me. And the same thing happens. This wild elephant comes running, and the moment it comes in front of Buddha, it completely changes. Its madness gone, anger gone, it cools down, and then it is said that elephant just prostrated in front of Buddha. And Buddha went near and patted that elephant. So those people who believe in this karma theory strongly, they remain unaffected like Nachiketa. And this is how we should also be. I have done everything good, noble, so nothing can harm me. Whatever comes, it is only for my good, because I have done only good. This confidence we must have. Somebody went to Akhandanji Maharaj and said, Swamiji, I do only good, but others take advantage of my goodness and they exploit me. I am treated like a doormat. They exploit my goodness. So therefore I suffer. Swamiji remained silent for some time. And then he asked him, tell me, do you want sorrow? So he said, no. And Swamiji said, okay, you don't want sorrow. Why don't you eliminate sorrowful situations with the help of your friends, relatives, neighbors, etc.? You don't like sorrowful situations, so why don't you eliminate those sorrowful situations with the help of your near and dear ones? So then he said, Swamiji, how is it possible? It comes and you have to go through it. Akhandanji Maharaj said, in the same way, just like you cannot eliminate sorrowful situations, in the same way, your enemies cannot eliminate joyful situations in your life, how much ever they may try. Your papa karma will bring you sorrowful situation. You have no choice but to go through. Your punya karma will bring you joyful situation. You have no choice but to go through. Nobody can take it away from you, not even your enemies. Those joyful situations born out of your own punya karma, it has to come to you. There is no choice. Nobody can take it away from you. What a beautiful answer. So our job is only one, keep doing good, keep doing good. Don't worry about the results. Results will come and only good results will come. If actions are good, results have to be good. Now this is the confidence of this boy. Death has come, no problem. There must be some auspicious thing which the death can bring. And now see this. This death has brought the greatest auspiciousness to Nachiketa. The whole of Kathopanishad is nothing but that. Why? Because it is because of this death that he is able to meet Lord Death, Yamaraj, and it is because of this that he gets the highest knowledge, the self-knowledge, which liberates a person. You see that? So really speaking, Nachiketa was blessed by the greatest auspiciousness due to this death. Isn't it? So this boy was right. His prediction was right. There is something good that is going to happen to me. This death is going to bring something good to me. And then see what he says. Kimsvit yamasya kartavyam yat maya adya karishyati. What is the purpose of Yamaraj which is going to be served through me? So here kartavyam has to be understood as purpose. Yamasya kartavyam means the purpose of yama. Kartavyam doesn't mean duty, responsibility, etc. Kimsid yamasya kartavyam, what is that purpose which I am going to serve for Yamaraj? What is the purpose of Yamaraj which is going to be served through me? This is the question he is asking. Now see, there is no lamenting. Ayyo, my father gave me to death. No lamenting. Why no lamenting? Because my actions have been good, so therefore karma phala also should be good. Whatever may come, it doesn't matter. Now here another point is worth discussing. Of course, In the history also we find so many such characters. In the Mahabharata also you find, in Ramayana also you find. Bhagavan Ramchandra ji, even when he had to go to forest, even that forest became like a palace, it is said. Meaning what? He was enjoying his life even in forest. Now this is what happens when you do good. The punya karma phalas follow you wherever you go, even if you go to forest. It is said when Bhagavan Ramchandra ji was in forest, all the devatas came and tented themselves around Bhagavan. It is said that all these forests, these trees were laden with fruits in all seasons. It is said the whole nature changed when Bhagavan went there. And also, just imagine morning till evening satsang with so many Rishi Munis. What a wonderful thing. This was how Bhagavan Ramchandra was spending his life. So literally he was in heaven even in forest. What about Dasharatha? He was miserable even in palace. Even Vasishtha Rishi could not help him. See, others cannot help us. Our own karma comes to us. Look at Dhritarashtra. He was supposed to guide his children. He did not do that because of his attachment. He was partial, and finally it led to war. One cause of war was only because of the poor parenting of Dhritarashtra. That was the cause of the entire war. And in the end, what happened? All his sons died before him, in front of his eyes. 100 of them. Dhritarashtra was miserable after the war. He was living in a palace, no doubt. Yudhishthira was ruling the kingdom. Dhritarashtra was also living in the palace, but in palace also he was miserable because he was constantly thinking about his children, the death of his children. So literally he was living in hell even in palace. You see the difference? So wherever we go, our karma phalas follow us. If you have done good, then even in forest you create a heaven for yourself. If you have done bad, even in palace we create hell for ourselves. Right. Now another question which normally people ask is, see, Vajasrava shouted at Nachiketa. Why should Nachiketa take it so seriously? See, you must see the time, the place, the mood, etc. of a person before taking the words of that person seriously. So it is very clear that father did not mean it. He did not want his son to die. Out of that annoyance, out of that anger, he just spoke those words, but actually he did not mean it. So why should Nachiketa take these words seriously? Because in his place, if we were to be there, we would definitely say, father told because of just disturbance, but actually he doesn't mean it. So we need not pay much attention to that. We need not take it seriously. This is how we would have reacted. But see Nachiketa, his attitude was different. He said, no, if father has spoken these words, his words should not be falsified. Now see this son. I think this is the most ideal son. You can't beat Nachiketa in becoming a better son. He said, my father has uttered this. I don't care in which mood he has said this. In which circumstances he has said it, I don't care. Only one thing I care. What has he said? Those words must become true. That's it. It should not be falsified. Now this in our scriptures, it is called as Mahavrata. Mahavrata. At any cost, I will fulfill this vow. Now this is called Mahavrata. No exceptions allowed. There are so many Mahavratis in our Mahabharata. Best example is, just as I was mentioning, Bhishma Pitama. He took Mahavrata. I will not get married. I will remain a celibate, lifelong celibate. He had to even fight with Parashurama, his own guru. Parashurama wanted him to marry Amba. Bhishma said, no, I have taken a vow, I have to stick to it. So then you have to fight with me. Yes, I am ready. So there was a war, there was a fight between Parashurama and Bhishma. And Parashurama could not defeat Bhishma. You see, the point is this vow. Bhishma, till the end, he remained firm in his vow. Another great Mahavrati is our Karna. So that was his vrata, that every day morning after Sandhya Vandana, I will give some Dana Dakshina to some noble people, Brahmanas, etc. And whatever that person asks, I will give. So then what happened? The war was going to happen. So Arjuna's father Indra, he comes in disguise as Brahmana to ask his, Kavacha Kundala, the armor and the earring. So it is said that as long as that was there, nobody could touch Karna, nobody could kill him. But then Karna had taken this vow that whoever asks whatever I will give it. So when this Brahmana, none other than Indra, he asks this, he just removes and gives it, knowing well that if this is gone, I am dead. Now this is called as Mahavrata. I don't care about my life. I will stick to my vow. Pandavas also had this Mahavrata. They strictly obeyed their mother, Kunti Devi. So when Draupadi Swayamvara happened, so they came back with Draupadi. So they said, Mother, see whom we have brought, what we have brought to you. So Kunti Devi, even without seeing what has been brought, he said, whatever it is, you share among yourself. And that's how Draupadi became the wife of all the five. Now this is called Mahavrata. Whatever you say, in whichever mood it is, we'll just obey. This is called as Mahavrata. The other one is Alpavrata. The vratas which we normally take. Suppose you are fasting. Every Saturday you are fasting. And so one Saturday you are not feeling well. So you say, it's okay. Because I am not feeling well, I can skip. Now, this is called as Alpavrata. According to Desha, Kala, etc. Time, place, situation, mood, you change. But here, Nachiketa's vrata is Mahavrata. Whatever my father has said, I am going to obey it. I will never make his words become untrue, become false. So now, after introspection, the mind is very clear. Now he is very clear as to what has to be done. And with this clear mind, he approaches his father. Then what happens, we will see in the next class. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.
Gopala, Gopala, Gokulanandana Gopala, 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 Gokulanandana Gopala, 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 నందన గోపాల నందకుమార గోపాల నవనిత చోర గోపాల నందకుమార నవనిత చోర నంద నందన గోపాల 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 గోకుల నందన గోపాల 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 గోకుల నందన గోపాల అనాథ రక్షక గోపాల ఆపద్బాంధవ గోపాల అనాథ రక్షక ఆపద్బాంధవ అఖిలాధార గోపాల 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 గోకుల నందన గోపాల 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 గోకుల నందన గోపాల 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 గోకుల నందన గోపాల గోపాల గోపాల